Chapter 4. That father would become a fortune hunter is something I would never have predicted. His habits had been altogether regular, his attitudes predictable, and his conversations, dare I say, were to me like lump-filled oatmeal. Not a soup kind of enchanting ideas, or action. Caution was the fabric from which his soul had been fashioned. An example. Like many in Rhode Island, father believed in slavery's abolition. So in the fall of 1848 he attended the anti-slavery conference held in Providence. I begged to go along, but was refused permission. But after he had gone, I slipped out of our house, dressed as much as a lady as I could, walked into town, and mingled midst the crowd at the back of the auditorium. Oh, the terrible tales I heard about the suffering of black people. It made me ill. I also learned about an organization called the Anti-Slavery Convention of American Women. That night I announced that I wished to join this women's group immediately and do something about the scourge of slavery. Not only did my father absolutely forbid me from doing so, but I was also severely scolded for even attending the meeting. All very well for you to have noble thoughts, he lectured me, but young ladies are meant to stay home, not fix the world. What would your aunt say? Burning with righteous anger, I replied, You, sir, though you attended the convention, are doing nothing to rid the world of this evil. Then I turned my back and walked away. Not long after that scolding came father's astonishing announcement about going to California. It was as if he, hitherto a man glued to the earth, was prepared to travel to the moon. I don't intend to change our lives completely, he informed his astonished family. Once I go and collect some of the gold from the extraordinary abundance, we shall simply relocate ourselves in California. Have no doubt, business establishments with the growing Pacific trade will need double-entry bookkeeping. We shall return to our regular life. The only thing that will change is our geography. But if I'm to regain our fortunes, I must hurry. Many are already going. There was no debate. Father was going to California. From that day forward, father's only interest, concern, talk, objective was gold. He was caught up in what, along the East Coast, was soon known as gold fever. But I saw it for what it was. Father wished to go to California because he thought finding wealth would be easy. That wealth, he thought, would enable him to take up a position exactly as he had at Pratt & Willinghast. He was not so much seeking the future as he was trying to regain his past. Even so, when my mother's sister heard of father's plan, she was strongly opposed. This is unthinkable. Utter folly. It must not happen. If I had had any doubts, her words convinced me that it should happen. I did everything to encourage father's decision, praising him for his courage and his wisdom. As for mother, though she was at first much taken aback by father's decision, she soon became accepting and supportive. Perhaps, she told me, California would solve all our problems. Upon that expectation, her health improved somewhat. It was only then that I began to grasp that she, too, resented her sister's interference and control of our lives. I loved her more for that. Jacob, who had become bored with not going to school, was swept along by father's venture. Father's new great wealth, he informed me, would allow us a new house, most likely better than our Sheldon Street home, and with more servants. It would also put him in the best school with proper friends. He therefore pleaded that he be allowed to go west and share in what he deemed a grand adventure. Father said he could go. I trust you have noticed that in all this hubbub there was no mention of me. I have thought hard about families, and I think they are rather like the United States. That is, there is but one union, but each state is different, and each has its own government. As far as I was concerned, I was my own state, my own government. For make no mistake, I saw father's decision as a way to remove myself from the anchor that was Rhode Island, and thereby embrace Ancora, hope. I began by announcing that I believe I too should go to California. To my delight, Jacob agreed with me. True, I quickly realized it was only because he fancied the notion that once we were there I would take care of him. To that I groaned, but took care to do so only inwardly. Mother, more reasoned, told father that there was nothing I could do for her which a servant could not accomplish. But once you, she reminded father, are at the gold mines and have found a comfortable home, which I assume you'll do quickly, you'll need someone to keep it clean and in order. As a girl, Tori is best suited for that. She'll be much more helpful to you there than being here with me. I was not pleased by those domestic prospects, but once again decided silence should be the preferred disguise, and therefore kept my thoughts to myself lest I be left behind. Alas, even then, father's response was, "Is not Tori's greater obligation as a young woman to stay and care for her ill mother? I am sure Aunt Lavinia would say as much." As you might guess, that was reason, however unreasonable, enough to pitch my desire to go west even higher. "Besides," continued father, "as your aunt has said, a girl is too frail to undertake such an arduous expedition." I, who had spent days sewing and lifting heavy bolts of cloth, was mortified. Please do not misunderstand. I love my father, but he is one of those men who rarely change their ideas. Then when he does alter his views, he claims he has always held such thoughts, and hews to the new ones as rigidly as the old. It was apparent to me that these new ideas were designed to get only what he wanted. Thus it was decreed I must stay with mother in Providence. The two of us would join father in California after he gained his fortune. Ah, but recall my motto, "My will shall decide my destiny." I had already decided that California was my destiny. Not allowed to go? I reminded myself that just as for Jane Eyre, each new problem was but a riddle-me-ree to be solved. I would have to act for myself. I therefore waited for my opportunity. Meanwhile, for father, the first great question was, how might he travel west? It appeared there were those who actually walked across the entire continent by way of the great western desert. It was the cheapest way, but surely the most strenuous. Or he might take a ship to Panama and then find a way to traverse the isthmus and thence again by ship to California. That route held the grave danger of jungle illness. Or he could sail around the Horn of South America. That journey covered 14,000 miles and took as long as 7 months. Nonetheless, while it was the longest journey, in time and space, it was considered safest. Also, father could take a direct passage from Providence, which was a major seaport at the head of Narragansett Bay. The bay, in turn, led to the Atlantic Ocean. Father, ever the prudent man, chose to sail from Providence and go around the Horn. The next question was that of cost. The newspaper was full of advertisements for passenger tickets to the West Coast that cost at a minimum $250. Of course, once in California, he must have other expenses, the right clothing, mining tools, and housing. At the moment, our family funds were exceedingly low. To raise enough money for his trip, he decided to sell our Sheldon Street home, his only source of ready cash. "Since we shall all resettle in California," he informed us, "we'll have no need for this house. I shall sell it and use the money to carry us west." Sell our house! Hurrah for being plucky! How exciting all these alterations! Alas, mother's health did not yet allow her to leave her sofa and travel. Dr. Laxton's word was law. Only when he deemed her fully recovered might she voyage out. "Women are by nature weak," the doctor proclaimed with all the gravity of his Harvard Medical School degree. Clearly, he had not read Jane Eyre. Therefore it was agreed that mother should stay at Aunt Lavinia's house until such time as she regained her vigor. It was further commanded that I should stay there with her. I was horrified. But don't think me idle. I kept trying to find a way to travel west. Meanwhile, father, swept up in his enthusiasm, as were so many other Providence men, arranged to sell our house and use some of the money to book passage on a vessel, the Stephanie K., a ship of 450 tons. She was scheduled to leave Providence for California in February of 1849. Father selected sleeping berths that, he said, were big enough for him and Jacob. "Are these berths big enough to accommodate me?" I asked, making one final plea to be included. Father replied, Tori, as I have told you many times, you must remain in Providence with Mother. I did not ask again. Happily, there was another magnificent idea in Jane Eyre which came to my rescue. I beg you to go to chapter 34 and find this sentence. It reads, I would always rather be happy than dignified. This unfearing sentiment was the key to solving my difficulty. Recall, Jacob and I had been conspirators in the matter of my schooling for some time, so we knew how to do things without our parents' knowledge. Is there anything sweeter than sibling secrets? Also, had I not joined the library on my own? Had I not been reading secretly, studied school in secret, walked alone to downtown Providence? The plan I devised was simple. When the Stephanie K left Providence, I would be on board, as a stowaway.